Alex. Hope your special day went all according to plan, and hope you guys are having a great honeymoon right now. This is your video lesson. This is your two things I want to talk about. I'll talk about those two things, and as usual, feel free to shoot a message on over to me, and I'm more than happy to answer. Remember, next Friday the studio is closed. I'll email everyone to remind everyone. But the studio will be closed for 4th of July next week. And if you have questions, just send me between now and Thursday, and I will get back to you and answer any question you got. So let's get to it. So continuing on with our blues theory, you just need to know a little bit of theory to gain access to what these blues players are doing. And to recap what we talked about last time, we were talking about the major scale and how we're going to use this as the foundation for all the blues soloing and connect it to deeper blues ideas. Remember that the major scale is just a formula. It is interval distances, and I think we already talked about this, so I'm just going to recap it because you've already talked about this with me, is that you have a major scale. It has 3 segments to it. You have a whole half, right? So you have your starting note. Say, for example, I'll start on this note E right here, and I haven't gone anywhere, so there's no interval to be said there, right? So I have my first distance, whole, and then I go whole, and then I have half. That's the first segment. So whole, sorry, 0, I haven't gone anywhere yet. Whole, half. Root, whole, half. Root, whole, half. I highly encourage you to practice this on one string. Don't try to do fingerings. If you do fingerings, you start thinking about fingerings and you think about where my fingers go. If you do it one finger on one string, you're thinking more about intervals and what the scale sounds like. In my experience of teaching people how to do this. So I have root, whole, half, whole note buffer zone, that's my second piece. And then I go into my third piece, whole, half. If you don't end up on the same note that you started on, or if it sounds weird, then you've done something wrong. You want to be able to run major scales up and down one string flawlessly and without thinking about it before we start kind of diving in and adding those notes to our pentatonic scales. So E, root note, whole, half, whole, half, root, whole, half, whole, half. And I'll do it in both directions. That way I get that sound in my ear. That's the basic theory. The blues element that you add to that is that you lower, so we have our scale, right? And we've given it all scale degrees, right? So the E is the 1 because it's the first note in the scale. F sharp is 2, so we call those scale degrees. What we're gonna do, in a major scale, they're all just gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because the major scale is kind of like the baseline, the balance point, right? So you have this right here. What we're gonna do to this is we're gonna take the 7th scale degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And we're gonna flat that note or lower that note by a half step. So instead of being a D sharp here, we're gonna lower that note and we're gonna make it a D natural. So the scale ends up becoming this: E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D. So it's different than the major scale. This becomes a different scale now. I can't tell you what it is right now because that's a conversation we need to have in person next time, or synchronous. But that's the note that turns us into a bluesy sounding scale. So our major scale becomes the foundational point or the baseline, and we go into the major scale. Once we understand scale degrees, whole steps, half steps, then we alter one of those notes, the 7th scale degree, and we flat the 7th. And if we do that on one string, it's going to sound like this. Not D sharp. If I do it on one string on the E string, and what we're going to do is we need to be able to play that scale on one string, right? And then we're going to add that to the shell voicings that we talked about last time. So assignment is to review last week's video, obviously, and then this week is, can you play that E major scale up and down your B string or your E string right here. You should be able to do both. B, because we're not starting on E, right? So we're kind of starting in the middle. B, C sharp, D, B. And if we do that, we go to our shell voicing and we add one of the notes from that scale and get some really neat sounding chords. That way when we go add that back into fingerstyle, right? That's how you get all those little extra notes. And this is how we're gonna figure out all those little sixths that he's doing. We're gonna expand our knowledge with that. Right? If you understand the major scale and then this altered bluesy scale, which I'll tell you the name of next time, when we go to play those little country sixths, you can have a really great understanding of where they're coming from. Like I said, you just need a little bit of theory to carry you through this part right here. You don't need to know out there wacky analysis stuff. You just need to know a major scale, flat that 7th scale degree. Bam, those are the notes that we're going to use for our country sixths. And that way you're not going to be guessing of stuff. And we'll add those into whatever, basically. Once we get this down, this pays off in dividends. This will give you everything you need to play over top of dominant 7 blues songs. Say like Life by the Drop by Stu Ray Vaughan is one. Voodoo Child, Smokestack Lightning. This is all useful in that world. So once you get this down, man, this is gonna pay off big on the back end as far as your blues soloing knowledge and little licks that you can do. And you're gonna understand where they're coming from. Cool, man. Work on those things for me. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you after 4th of July. Take care.